Takatur, Yangai, Danishral Russell Mullet. I just said to you, welcome, hello, and my name's Russell Mullet. I'm a Gunaikurnai descendant. Our country incorporates some of the Alpine area. It's really significant. It's where the waters of a lot of the rivers that run out of the mountains run to the sea, and some of it runs north, some of it runs south. The importance of it is that it's plains, snow plains, and a special part of the snow plains are these peatlands that filter water and purify water. If it rains or if it snows, that water is filtered through these peatlands, these sphagnum moss beds, and they're really significant, they're highly significant. It's one of the things that over the years, I guess, bringing international tourists to the Alps, they were surprised that you could actually drink the water here. I hadn't thought about how lucky we are, and I think it's really important that people need to understand what function that plays in these alpine areas.
When you're walking around the Alpine Peatlands, you get a sense of how delicate they are. You watch where you're putting your feet, and that's as a human that is wearing shoes and doesn't weigh very much. It just makes you think about the hard-hoofed creatures that weigh so much more, and their weight is confined to a really small area. And today we've seen the damage that they can cause to the Alpine Peatlands through pugging. That's one of the threats to the Alpine Peatlands, along with weeds like willows and soft rush. There's also the risk of bushfires and changing hydrology. These peatlands reside high up in the mountains. There's nowhere higher for them to go. It's very important that we look after them.
And so we're managing threats that put pressure on that ecosystem. So that could be deer, other introduced animals like pigs and horses. We also have a look at some of the past disturbance that's occurred in those areas. So whether that's a four-wheel drive track that's in the wrong spot or an old aqueduct, and how we can rehabilitate some of the areas that have been damaged through those actions. And then we also have a really intensive weed management program as well. So we're managing things like willows, soft rush, lotus in and around the peatlands to ensure that they're just as natural as possible and functioning as well as they can to withstand other challenges that are more difficult for us to control.
So the VAPPC is a coordinating group of agencies and working on peatland areas in the Victorian area.
Now that's a partnership of Parks Victoria, 3 CMAs and the Australian Government and DECA. I mean, at the moment, here we are at the headwaters of the Tyers Rivers, just downstream from the Mount Baw Baw peatland system. But bear in mind that this partnership concentrates effort not only here, but all the way across northern Victoria, the Great Divide, as far as Mount Buffalo and so on. So there's a lot of value in that, there's efficiencies that come with that. The scale in which we're operating at impacts all the peatlands, and by doing that we can actually proudly say that we're achieving a fantastic outcome in the longer term. So examples of that are the fire planning protocols and guidelines that were developed.
Yeah, being involved in the Incident Control Centre during the Black Summer Fires was a really intense experience. As you know, everyone's aware it was a huge fire season, really hot, dry, windy weather, yeah, a real challenge. But what was really fantastic to see was that while we're protecting all of human life and property and other built assets, there was a real focus as well to try to do our best to protect environmental assets, including the Alpine peatlands. And so we're able to use some of the tools that we developed through this project to guide some of the actions that we undertook in terms of where we put our control lines, where we did our back burning, and where we directed our resources for managing that bushfire, which was a great thing for the peatlands.
There was an Alpine condition monitoring protocol that was developed, and recently over the past 7 years we collectively looked at deer control trials. So what's the most efficient way to manage deer, and importantly understanding what the ecological and hydrological response is in those peatlands once the density of deer is lowered to an acceptable level. Another important factor of the peatland areas, as mentioned there, the headwaters of the potable water supplies that provides, important potable water for the townships in Gippsland and also as far as Melbourne. And let's not forget the natural assets downstream. These are the headwaters for iconic places like the Gippsland lakes.
And in North East CMA area, we always talk about the fact that 38% of the water that goes into the Murray-Darling Basin system actually comes from the North East.
It's been a really supportive environment. Everyone shares ideas. Each partner brings different skills and experiences, and we all share and collaborate all of those ideas and knowledge so that we can all benefit. We've seen an improvement in the peatlands across all of the patches. We've seen a reduced impact in deer effects in the peatlands and also a reduced number of weeds, but there's also the constant threat that weeds and deer can still return to the area, so it's something that we need to be on top of all the time and working together to control. In the future for the peatlands, I really see that partnership model being taken forward and potentially inviting new partners in on the partnerships. It'd be really good to see more traditional owners.
For us, it's about connecting our young people back to this country, looking at peatlands, looking at the animals that live there, looking at the water and the water quality. And the more we get engaged with that, the more we understand it, the more we can influence the management of it. And obviously building careers for our young people and reconnecting with the country, which is the most important part. It's what we've lost, our inheritance. When Europeans arrived, our inheritance to manage our country was taken from us, forcibly taken from us. And so we're revisiting our inheritance, our natural inheritance, our cultural landscapes. And these are important things that the community must understand, who we are and how we need to connect back to our country.